Okay, welcome. Today is an open dialogue, which I'm sure some of you know about dialogue, but I'll be very brief and just say that the theme is listening and sharing. And I've heard this quoted as dialogue, true dialogue is people truly speaking to people truly listening.
Nice.
So um, I encourage you to share what's on your mind. And if oftentimes there is a common theme which emerges, and that's one of the things I like about this. It's sort of spontaneous, it's in the moment, and it's from you. Um, what I'd like to do though, before we share this, is I'd like to just sort of refresh my brain on how I can take notes from what you say. Um,
You
so
want to talk to the AI?
Um, let me see if I can share my screen here.
I think you have an option at the bottom of the screen for AI companion. Is that what you're asking about, Roy?
I believe so.
Go to the bottom of the screen and scroll, and it'll say apps and then AI companion.
Can you see me now?
No, we can see your Zoom screen. You're over here. So
I got the
if
companion here.
okay,
No, go ahead if you have something you want to share.
I don't think there's any value in you sharing your Zoom screen. You would share your screen that you're in. So maybe you'd pick dialogues and thought. Click on that one. Your top tab, right next to new thought and thinkers. Di okay, that didn't open.
Let's see. Give me 2 seconds here.
Yeah, which one are you in now? Dialogues and thought, the first one?
I'm in the Zoom screen.
That's
Oh, I
that.
think I found it.
Well, it's
Uh,
where
can
you,
you can you see that November 8th?
yes,
What questions do you have?
yes.
Okay, I would like to just briefly take notes about questions or topics that you would like to potentially talk about in this hour. If there's any questions on your mind, I just want to take notes on this and that can potentially guide our conversation. So, Kai, do you have anything that you would like to talk about or any questions that are on your mind? Oh, we lost Kai. Rex, Sue, or Chris?
I'm here just to be a part of the flow and whatever comes up, I'll enjoy speaking about or sharing about or listening about.
I think I'm having challenges here. Sorry, guys.
You're you don't need to have your screen up to take notes. You could take notes and still everybody could see each other if you wanted.
I'll do that.
Yeah, probably going to be more comfortable for everyone in the group.
Um, okay, I'm going to stop sharing here.
There you go.
Thank you.
Right on.
Okay, Rex, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Do I have anything I'd like to share? I always have something to share, but I'm interested in Chris and Sue and Kai's input as to what they might like to share or anything they have that they brought to this today in the form of questions or thoughts or feelings, or is there something you're working on? I don't care. Whatever it is, my whole intent always, and it's consistent, and it's been this way for the better part of 30 years. I'm just hopefully getting a little better at it all the time, is to be the source and manifestation of pure love and do whatever I can to support that in everyone else. And if there's something I could say, do, think, or feel that would support you having a stronger connection to your creator in your body and a more deeply felt embodiment of pure love in sports language, touchdown, home run, that's kind of what I'm here for.
I love that. Thank you. So any questions, issues, topics? Go ahead, Chris.
I guess yeah, I'm interested in any ideas on how to feel that connection more strongly, the connection with God or the infinite. I'd been I'd been having some fun listening to a couple books by a guy that interviews, or he does yeah, he interviews people about life between lives under hypnosis. And it's just interesting about what people are learning between lives and then what they're learning in their life. Um, but and how people can feel really connected on Earth um, while they're living their lives. And yeah, I'd like to get closer to that.
That sounds fascinating. How about Sue or anyone else? Rex?
I've
Okay.
been thinking about the blocks to being divine, obstacles that have gotten in the way, and trying to be the owl observer, so to speak, and becoming more and more aware of that so I can stop, take a look, and discover what it is that I need to do to get back into a space of connecting with spirit and with God.
I love that. One of the things that I'm hopeful for about these dialogues is to learn more about that concept. And I think you captured it fairly well, and the different approaches that people use, secrets and techniques and ahas that people have found as they do get in touch with their larger, higher self, perhaps. With that in mind, any tips you'd like to share or recent ahas?
You know, could I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Um, why don't you share what you think you'd like to talk about today too? Or
Who, me?
yes, I would love to hear what your thoughts are and what you'd like to see happen this day.
Well, thank you. I'm just glad we're connected here. Um, I guess this sort of relates to my overall reasons for having these conversations is to just learn new approaches, to have an excuse every week or every month to connect with new people and new ideas. And we have such a rich population of new thought thinkers like yourselves who have so much to share, and just creating another forum for sharing that and learning from you. So I guess that's why I'm here today, is to pick up some new tips, but also to maybe discover some common interests or common projects that um, can be helpful. I've been really into Bashar lately, and I'm interested in talking more about Bashar. And one of his key principles is following your path of highest excitement, and sort of let the things that you're interested in and excited about sort of be your guide to that divine presence or that higher self. And getting in touch with that is something that's one of my goals.
So restate it again, follow
Your path of highest excitement. So what interests you right now? You know, what's and finding discovering it might just be, well, I want to do a Zoom dialogue, or I want to go for a walk. But that intersection with the moment, like what's really on my mind, like you just asked, what do I want to share? What do I want to learn? What questions do I have? And following that and seeing where it goes.
Well, thanks, Leroy.
Thank you for asking. How about you, Rex? I was hoping to hear from you as well in terms of, what are you really working on these days? What questions do you have? And yeah, do you have any recent insights that you'd like to share?
Yes.
Hey,
Yes. Yes. All of that. Where to start? My world's changing very rapidly. Um, my inner world and outer world. I have recently decided to start stepping back out again and get out into the public, you know, auditory and, taking action steps to, get the message that I feel is the most important message. We had a conversation last week and I shared my ideas. I did the Lord's Prayer in ancient Aramaic. And if you're really looking at how to connect more deeply, Chris and Sue, how to work with blockages, that is a really good starting point. You may want to go back and we had a conversation with Kai, Leroy and myself and, ask questions. And then I was blessed with being able to, share some ideas that I had around some of the questions that were asked. But fundamentally, what I'm doing now is I'm just introduced the still point breathing process to the three owners of Quantum Waves Wellness Center here in Oxford, Michigan, where we live. And they're really excited about having me come in and do the still point breathing work session in the Quantum Waves EES system energy with a substantial discount in what you would normally pay for a 2.5 hour process. So that's going to be a really exciting. It looks like we're moving in the direction of January, and we may start a series depending on how it goes. So that's exciting because the breath work has been my specialty for the better part of almost 50 years now, privately and also publicly. I'm being invited to, more podcasts. Thus, why I showed up last week is I told Leroy, I said, well, it's good timing. I met his son at a wedding. A friend of ours got married, and he said, Leroy might really enjoy having you on his program. And I said, cool, I'd like that. And prior to that, I'd not really done any outreach to publicly go back into the speaking, realm and work with churches and what have you. My private work has been increasing, and the specialty that I work with is fundamentally what I would offer relative to blocks and connecting more deeply with who we are is first and foremost to recognize what your thoughts are about who you are. First and foremost, what do you think you are? Who do you think you are, Chris? I know that may sound like, well, that's what I'm asking. Why are you asking me a question back again? Well, because it gives us a groundwork to start from. And it'll fit right in, Chris, perfectly with Sue and what you offered and what you were asking. And that is, I'd like to know a little bit more. My version of what I heard you ask for is I'd like to really be able to know how to identify blocks and work with them to clear them. And you didn't say I'd like to do it this way or that way. You just like to know how to go about doing it. And in the process of doing it, come together more clearly with who I really am and have that be a stronger, more committed, loving relationship is what I would add to all the energy that I was experiencing as you were sharing versus just the words, not just the words, but the words and everything that went along with it. And so together, my take on that is very fundamentally very, very simple. And I do want to hear what you think you are, Chris, because that'll give us a good structure. Is that okay, Leroy? Okay, Chris, why don't you go ahead and just, if you feel open to that.
Well, I know I'm a human, and I know And I know that there's a consciousness beyond just the brain. And I'm very science oriented. I used to do science before I got sick. Um, but I've had different experiences like premonitions and past life memories and things like that that make me feel that consciousness is bigger than our little bodies.
Nice.
And but I used to, so I had started meditating from when I was 16. I was doing transcendental meditation. When I got sick, this neuromuscular disease, I got some brain damage from it too, and it stopped me being able to drop into that state, that meditative state. It, so I'm sort of at sea, just sort of floating around, not quite able to connect anymore.
Hmm.
So anyway, that's where I'm at.
Well, Chris, God bless you. And I appreciate you being so genuine and sincere with what you're communicating. Um, I don't claim to know how or what would be best for you or anyone else for that matter. But I do know that sometimes it can be really simple. And I think we have a tendency to make it complex, especially if we're coming from a scientific background like you may have come from. Okay. And I started about 20 years ago having difficulty remembering things. And this is not to compare in any way because they're not the same, and I'm not claiming they are in any way. But just to relate more to what you're saying, I started having difficulty with my memory and my retrieval system. And so I would just be right in the middle of talking, and then all of a sudden I would just lose my complete train of thought. And I was like, what is going on? I'm starting to have problems. And I had up to that point a really keen memory on things. I could actually, I was a general manager for a medium-sized water treatment company. And at the time, I was having problems with, I wouldn't have to bring a pad into the meetings with the owner. He would just tell me what he wanted done, and he could give me 8, 10 different items, and I just go and I just get it done. But one day I came in and I had a pad with me, and he goes, what's that? I said, it's my pad for notes. I want to make sure I catch everything. And he goes, what are you talking about? He says, you got a brain like a steel trap. You remember everything. What are you talking about? I said, just in case I miss some, I want to, and I didn't tell him because I felt really insecure in it, you know? But I literally had to write it down because he could say what he wanted, and a few minutes later, I couldn't remember it. And so from that limited place, I can have an experience of what you may be experiencing. And what came out of it for me is I just kept saying, okay, universe, I've got this challenge. What am I going to do about it? What do we got to do? And what it did is it moved me out of the linear perspective of being caught up in thinking my brain was so important and who I was my brain and everything that I remembered and collectively thought to surrendering into the divinity and not knowing. So my inability to remember and to retrain my brain to retrieve things and memories and thoughts and have a cognitive discussion. It was embarrassing because I would have to really moderate my communication with people. So here's what came out of it. I started asking the angels to give me a hand more.
Mhm.
I'd walk into a room and I'd go, pardon the language, but I go, shit, I don't know why I'm here. I wouldn't say it out loud, but I'd walk into the room and I'm standing in a room and I go, why did I walk into this room? And I go, angels, give me a hand. So I started working more with my divinity. And the angels, I believe, are an aspect of our divinity. They're a part of our divine nature that we have as a resource. And so they would actually communicate to me and they would help me. I'd started to follow my guidance and just looking at something. And I go, oh, Oh, I came in to adjust the heat. Now, I know that sounds very rudimentary, but it's so important. And whenever we're having any type of brain challenge, be it something that's happened from a condition, being out of ease or a dis-ease, a diagnosed situation, an accident, whatever it might be, we have the opportunity to resource and access infinite knowledge, infinite material, because it's in the streams of everything that existed ever before now. Nothing, no thought, no feeling, no sensory experience has ever been lost, in my opinion. And some people call it the Akashic records. I think it's readily available. They've called it the Akashic records or the Akashic records or however they say it. But it's a form of record keeping so that we that are really structured into book learning, so to speak, will think that it's a book that somebody has. Exactly, a pad, right? And so what I think it actually is, it's a non-physical expression and a way of understanding how there's infinite streams, almost infinite, probably infinite, but almost infinite streams of vibration and frequency that we call thought, memory, and feeling that is encoded in all of history since the beginning of time. And in this present moment, in the only moment there is, all of it's available to everyone, regardless of what our mental capacity is. And so if there was anything that I would encourage, stay with that idea, Chris. And bless you for it being the challenges. I don't, again, claim to how difficult that can be. I just got a real, minor version of it, I'll say, not to judge it greater than or less than, but what can happen and what I would encourage you to do is that every single event that I've experienced, every single one, this is my own idea. I'm not saying it's anybody else's, but every single event that I've ever had, going back to being a cripple when I was 7 and being on having a brace and being on crutches for 6 months after 3 years of being with a brace and not being able to walk on my leg, to any abuses that I personally had as an experience, or being a state champion in wrestling, or finding one of the most amazing, beautiful human beings on the planet and marrying her and being together for over 50, or, well, 44 years now, 43 years. I mean, I'm just blessed, right? And there's also lots of jumps and falls and broke this and hurt that and did this and got achy back and, memory challenges at times and had cancer. I mean, I've kind of run the gambit of how many different options I can do. There's lots more. I'm not saying there's, I let that go. But the idea of that having experienced all these things, and every single one of these events have moved me in the direction of connecting more deeply with who I really am. No matter what it is, every single one. And when I've tried to go in a different direction than what that prompting is moving me in the direction of, then I get more crash and burn, or I get more trauma or more stress and more difficulty. And Sue, that leads to the blocks. And so then I establish these things that we have called blocks, or my inability to embrace something in love is what I would call it. And those blocks inhibit my ability from being present. In a wonderful conversation with Mitzi this morning, we were talking about, money and manifestation and abundance and what that can look like. And what I shared, because I've been working since quite a bit, not just with money, but just the idea of abundance and opulence of life, and abundance financially is a part of that. But I shared that, anytime I reference something from the past to determine how I'm going to experience the future will automatically put me out of present time.
Mm.
And the challenge with what I find to be the most challenging is, there's pain in my body, there's, thoughts and feelings that I have that distract me from being in the present moment. But suffice it to say, practice, like I have a fountain going, right? So can you hear the fountain at all? You can't, because the filter on the microphone kind of blocks the external noise. But I have a nice fountain. You can see it trickling, right?
Mm.
Somewhat. Yeah. So the fountain is a way to have me remember where I am. And who I am is who's remembering and having the experience of where I am. You've heard the phrase, I think it was something like, who's looking is, let's see, how's that phrase? Do you remember it, Leroy? Come on. Essentially, it's the same. Whoever's looking is who is looking. You're looking for something. The something you're looking for is what is seeing that you're looking for it. And so we have a tendency to look outside of ourselves for things to identify with so that we can feel whole. The real trick is we're already whole. There's nothing we need do, think, feel, or say that could be any more than what we already are.
I love that.
And so in the moment, Chris, what are you feeling right now? What are your thoughts? Being really present in your body. How's your body feeling? How are your thoughts? What's happening?
I guess I'm just trying to focus and listen. That's where I'm at right now.
And how is that going for you?
So it's okay. Um, my brain's a little foggy today, so it's a bit of a challenge, but
And what happens when your brain feels foggy?
um, I am easily distracted, and the words don't necessarily sink in.
Very good.
Um, and yeah, I can get confused. So,
Were you able to receive my communication? Did I say it too fast or did I give too much information or?
no, I think it was helpful, especially the being who you are right now.
Yes. Very good. And Chris, I would add the being who you are right now is an absolutely incredible, radiant, vibrant, brilliant being of pure light.
Mhm.
You were made in the likeness and image of pure love, not some man in a robe that's in heaven, in my opinion. Wherever that is, because when asked, Yeshua said, it is here and it is everywhere. It is here now, right? And so, Chris, you are the expression of that. You don't have to do anything or remember anything or think anything to have it be any more than it already is. You are that brilliant, incredible manifestation of pure love. And nobody, zero, no one can do it like you do.
Thank you. I think that I had spent my life creating and both in science and in art. And this disease took all that away. And so I have been working on being rather than creating
Nice.
and valuing being. So anyway, thank you for that.
You're so very welcome, deserving, and worthy. And if you notice, if I might, Chris, without getting too intimate, because you just tell me to stop anytime I am, all right? Or it's too much, that's too close, or any of that. Just say, nah, that's enough, a little out of bounds, or whatever. But what I witnessed just now is you drop more fully into your body. And when you did, your mind worked clearer.
Oh,
Is that accurate?
yeah, I think that's right.
And what happened?
I could
What comes to your mind? Yeah, what happened?
I could talk. Sometimes I can't really come up with words to say.
You're
So
doing great.
so I was able to talk. Yeah.
And so what the focus was on how amazing you are. And I think our one of our primary jobs, if not our primary job or a secondary purpose, for me, primary purpose is to be love and to fully recognize that in every cell in my body and to live it as much as I'm capable of. And then my secondary purpose is to support others doing the same if they choose to. And when you are in here and you feel and recognize the acknowledgement of who you really are, and what gets projected on you is a dynamic, amazing, brilliant, loving being of pure love who's rocking and rolling. Yeah, you're limited in your physical movement. And again, not to make that greater than or less than, I'm sure it's very, very difficult. I don't claim to know what that might be like. But the point is, you, the real you, are not limited by the body that you live in. And so by you being more present and recognizing, hey, snap to it. And this is what I would say to myself, Chris, not in a harsh way, but a very loving way. All right, Chris. So we don't have the freedom of movement right now. We don't have what we're doing. What can we do? Well, I can show up for a podcast and maybe I'll hear somebody inspire me a little bit so I feel a little better. Good. And then what else can you do? You can close your eyes and allow your mind to just drift into wherever it goes. And you can inspire the angels to guide it. Say, hey, I'm having a little trouble navigating. Michael, Gabriel, if you don't feel comfortable working with the archangels, work with some of the seraphim or some of the other angels. There's lots at your disposal that are just ready to do whatever you beckon them to do. So work with the angels and ask them for guidance and support and help. And say, hey, divinity, I'm having trouble connecting with my true being, heart-centered love. Yeah, I've got all these challenges with my body, and I'm interested in having them be healed. But in the meantime, I want to have more fun and start working on what does it take? And if you can't get up and run around the block because you enjoy running, you sit there and you imagine you're running around the block.
Mm.
Because you, the real you, are still running around the block. Actually and literally.
My dreams are like that. I do all kinds of things in my dreams. And that's really fun.
Then start practicing bringing the dream world that you're more fluent in your mind work. There it is. There's a dude. And then bring it into this physical world more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. At least
Awesome.
bringing that imagination in. Yeah.
And there's so many studies that have shown, and this may be helpful. Are we still okay, Leroy and everybody? Are we okay? Chris, there's studies that have been done, repeated studies of high level athletes. We're talking top of the echelon, like you know who LeBron James is and who
Mm.
okay, some of the biggest, Kobe Bryant and the great athletes, even more current athletes. But they did a study with the athletes, and they did put them in three categories. One category is they sat and imagined they were doing the shooting free throws as basketball players, or throwing the football as a football player. They imagined they did it, and they had to spend a certain period of time doing that. And so then the second group actually went out and physically did it and did the same amount of exercises that they're required to do in their minds. And the third group did both. And then they came back and they monitored where they were at when they started the study and where they were at when they finished the study. What do you think happened in the criteria of who excelled in those three groups?
I guess I would guess the ones that did both, but
It's accurate. They had the most powerful repercussion or outcome of them developing the skills that they were working on. But ironically, the number two place, not ironically, it's probably not the proper use of that, but interestingly enough, the second place were those who imagined it. And third place was the ones who physically did it only. And so what is it speaking to? We have, for lack of a better term, we have many bodies. And we have a tendency to identify so deeply with the physical body that it's the only body we have. There's so much more to us. And however limited you may be, or I may be, or anybody may be to our physical structure, it's a vehicle. It's not who you are. Now, I do my best to take really good care of this vehicle and to love it and embrace it and appreciate it, but I know it's not me. And any version I make up about this vehicle we call Rex isn't me either. The only one that's really me is in a perfect world when I'm in the most present state that I can possibly be in, and my divinity is fully expressing as pure love. And it's communicating, and I'm here. The I'm that we would call Rex is a witness and allowing my vocal cords to be used by the true being that I am, pure love. And I'd hope that I would know exactly what to say and how to say it that would bring some sense of peace or joy to anyone who might be listening.
well, thank you.
Thank you for being here and being in a body and being alive. And thanks for not checking out, because you probably had that as an option too. It's wonderful to meet you.
It's lovely to meet you too.
And what a great amplification or resonance with the original message that you shared last month, Rex, just sort of describing in real time kind of what you were sharing in terms of embodying and expressing pure love as one of your goals and processes.
Right on. On a practical level, Chris, it would be really beneficial to go back and listen to that, because I discuss there's filters in the human mind that are Rachma and Kuba in the ancient Aramaic language. And if you have them engaged, I think it's a trick to go beyond the limitations and our perceptual limitations and everything that goes along with it of the human mind to step more fully into our divinity. And I think that the trick is when we do that, we have as a resource almost, if not already, infinite knowledge. Everything that's ever been learned, ever experienced, ever been spoke of. I don't know any brain that contains all of that. And I've been blessed with speaking with some of the most brilliant people that can walk in a body with amazing memories and recording and, but they don't hold even an inkling to the availability of the Akashic records. and what's available. I would go beyond that and just say it's more than that. That's a limitation because it's almost placing it like in a place. And it's like what Journey said when he passed. My son passed about, it'll go 12 years in January, I think. And we asked, "Where are you, Journey?" He says, "I'm everywhere." Well, yeah, but we can't see you. Well, it's because you're not looking. Unmute, Kai. You got it. Your bottom left-hand corner is your mute button. You got to click on that and then it'll unmute.
Unmute?
You're
There you
unmuted.
go.
Cool. I have a question for you about that issue.
Well,
I'm on my cell phone now instead of the computer, so I can hear you.
Kai, just a moment before you do that, make sure everybody has before we go into another question about it, let's allow everybody who's here to have interaction about what we just shared, because there was a lot we shared. Chris shared a lot. Is that okay? And then we'll go into the question.
Okay.
Does that
It's
work,
okay with
Laura?
me.
That's great. Yeah, I like the idea of a pause just to let someone check in, but before we switch subjects. But keep that in mind, though, Kai, for a second.
Yeah, hold that thought. Definitely love questions.
There may not be any.
Sue, do you have anything you'd like to offer or share or add or add?
I just wanted to say that this is truly a reminder of who we are, and your stating that we're whole as we are is just so helpful, because as humans, oftentimes we think of ourselves as the being, the physical body, what we do, being productive, and looking at really the essence of who we are and our divinity is not physically seen. So it's hard. And I've been taking notes. I hope that's okay. This has been soul renewing for me. It really has been, in a way that none of you can maybe even imagine, or maybe you can.
Well, I can, because you just gave me the opportunity to imagine it, and I am. If that makes sense, Sue.
It does. I thank you. Yes.
And your light is much. My perception is that you are lighting up your space brighter than you were when you first came in. So whatever you've done, that's some of the answers you've been looking for.
Spot on. Yes, exactly.
Awesome. Laura, any thoughts or feelings or ideas or questions about what we all shared here?
I couldn't have asked for more. I love it when people are sharing what's on their mind, and I was hoping to hear more about your approach to sort of connect with that unlimited mind that you talked about. And what a great reminder
Yes.
that we all have access, and it's sort of hints at our equity and our kind of our shared ability to connect with that higher part of ourselves. So your reminders are very helpful.
Nice.
And Chris,
Awesome.
thank you for your willing to share your perspective as well. And Sue, Kai.
Cool. Now, is it all right to ask Kai if you wanted to ask this question? And anybody, obviously, it's for all of us. What you got, Kai?
Well, what came up for me, Rex, when I was listening to you at the end there, as I was trying to get some opportunity to actually share something with the group. What came up for me is the circumstance under which people are, well, what's the word I want to use? People are identified as being dead, and yet at some point later, they're alive again. A woman I was in relationship with had an abortion, and she told me that she was up in the corner of the room watching the doctors on trying to help her. And then she went back into her body. There's a video that I went to see a movie when I see about a year ago around people who were in accidents or illnesses or whatever the case might be. And they were on the table and they were considered to be dead. And yet at some point later, they just popped up and woke up. And some of the people that were interviewed said they went to heaven, they talked to Jesus, and the last guy in the movie said, you know, he wanted to stay. It was such a great place, and Jesus said, no, you have to go back. And so what happened was he woke up again. He wasn't dead. His wife and family were very excited because he hadn't died. But he told them, he said, I didn't want to come back. I wanted to stay there. And they all shunned him and wouldn't talk to him anymore.
And,
So
and
I'm just wondering about how this fits, Rex, with, you know, our physical presence that we believe that we're in, a physical presence. We're not physical. We're, you know, we're working our way through our ages and our opportunities and all the things that we come in contact with. And it's not really real as you're talking about it. And you and I have talked about this many times before, that the me of me is not me.
not the me you think it is.
I
Yes.
can, I say it's that, but even by saying it, it's not true. It's, I don't know exactly how to qualify it to say that I'm not really me being me.
Maybe thinking about what your question would be, Kai, might help clarify and also evoke some other responses.
I heard the question actually.
Well, yeah.
Okay, okay.
From
Go
what
ahead,
Rex
Rex.
was saying, my question is, you know, how is that different when somebody is dead and yet they come back and they're alive?
I think Leroy framed it really well when I addressed it the last conversation we had, because this came up in the conversation. And Leroy said, well, first of all, when the body dies, you're not dead,
Right.
because the body is not who you are, and the body is a part of nature. And when we, the true I, cannot die, I'm eternal.
Right.
And where we get into a dichotomy in that, or a massive challenge, especially for those who are inclined to be very intellectual, we must challenge our intellectuality, thinking that is a part of who we are. We must challenge that, Kai, because I know in our conversations, my experience in our communication last month and then again this month is, if I have a tendency, Rex, the guy we call Rex, if I have a tendency to overthink things, then I will create a persona that overthinks things. And there's some really good work. It's called the parts work. And it's powerful work in psychology, and you might want to look into that. But I found it to be very beneficial. Schwartz, I think, was the original person who came up with it, and there were some people that have done some work after that are really good. But I bring it up because we have so many different parts. We have, you know, the inner child that might be wounded. We have the inner child that might be joyous. We have a teenager. We have a protector. We have a, you know, manager. We have the intellect. We have a teacher. We have all these different versions that we've made up. And then we have become so identified with them that we think that's who we are. And when
And people around us help us with that. They help us to understand that that's who we are because of what way they function around us. Does
they,
that, it's
they
not
will,
just internal, it's external too, isn't it?
well, of course, yes, because fortunately or unfortunately, we're all living in the same actuality structure
Exactly.
with different reality structures perceiving what the actuality is. And so each of us have our own rendition of what the actuality is. And we addressed this last month as well.
Right.
What is in the actuality, in order for me to know what is actually here in the world, and whatever it is I think I'm talking about, called this body Rex, or Kai, or Sue, or Chris, or Leroy, I must have Rockland Kuba love filters fully active. I must have the mind and body fully indwelling as pure love, fully incarnated, fully Christed. And then I have to still filter it through the antenna we call the eyes and the ears and the sensory experience, and then encode it through an evidential mind that has got a lot of distortion in it, and then try to articulate it if I'm communicating it. It's going to be short. It's not going to be accurate. So
Right.
what we perceive is always off. And how that ties into what you're saying is our perception, because we are given the freedom. This is, again, just my opinions, and it doesn't mean they're accurate or true. It just means this is what I think. Is my opinion is that we have these different forms that we've made up as to who we are, and depending on which ones we identify with the most, when we truly leave the body and the body is pronounced dead, all the false perceptions of self are now no longer alive, because they aren't eternal. They're false images of Creator. That's what it said in the Bible when it said, "Thou shalt have no false images before me." Meaning we can't make up shit. But we do it all the time. But we do it all the time. And we make up stuff and we think it's real. So then when we leave the body, we get a real taste of what is more accurate. And all of a sudden, we're not seeing our body, we're seeing all the different forms that are in the space that we called bodies. And now link that to Einstein's statement: as to matter, we've been all wrong. Matter is energy whose vibration has been so lowered as to be perceptible to the senses. There is no matter. Well, if that's the case, then what are we witnessing? We're witnessing a projected image. So when we lay the body down, the projected images are dissolved, with the exception that we're a creator. So we're probably going to pick the ones that we think are really us, and use that in the projector. And that's what we have a witness of, having a conversation with Yeshua. I'm not saying have a conversation with Yeshua, but it will be their best version that they come up with within their own psyche.
There's something that I heard Wayne Dyer talk one time, and I think this fits into it. Somebody said to him, where do you go when you go to heaven? And he said, where do you go when you go to sleep?
And did he say any more?
Okay, that's the answer that he gave. They say, where do you go when you die? And he said, well, where do you go when you sleep? What's the difference? The body is now breathing. You're not conscious. The body is just breathing and breathing and breathing and doing what a body does to stay alive. But what happens to our soul at night when we're asleep? Doesn't it maybe go to the same place?
Wherever you go, there you are.
There you are. Exactly.
I don't want to interrupt this conversation, but since I just did, no, we can continue for a little bit. We've reached about an hour. I do want to plant the idea that if there's a subject or a topic or a speaker that you would like to suggest for next month, please email me or share it or blurt it out, call me. Be happy to entertain possibilities, including another open dialogue, which is actually kind of what I suggested. Like, what are you currently inspired with? And anyway, I'm just throwing it out there, and I'll be quiet for a few more minutes here.
So Kai, does that help with addressing the question you
Yeah.
asked?
Yeah, thanks. I'm sorry I wasn't able to connect earlier. I'll figure that out before I get to Libra next week.
Oh, that's what you made it. You got here. I think, and really your question is in line with what Chris was asking for and what Sue was asking for, and what I think is my primary mission. And that is, I would add that in order to know who I am, I must be able to recognize who I'm not.
Well, that just brings on one more point to me. When you said that, Rex, what came up for me was when I think that I'm who I am, I'm still not who I am because I don't really know who I am. I identify by what other people tell me I am in my body. And therefore, I'm in my body thinking that I'm in my body.
Well, whatever version you come up with that you think you are, you're correct. You're not.
Exactly. That's
Because-
exactly right.
But there's more. and
Well,
the
sure.
more is this. The more is this. The thinking process doesn't determine beingness. The thinking process is a thing that we do, and we can be as a witness of being.
Right.
The trick is that we get trapped in the thinking process and we identify with it so clearly because we get accolades, we get people to say they love the way we think, you get people to say we hate the way they think, we get people that think we're so cool, we get people that think we're so, there's all these different things that we get attachments to. And the key for me is to just let go of all that, is to really apply the tools of forgiveness, to release, let go, and untie. And when I find myself at a point where I have a question that it does not appear to be an answer, if I'm not able to just quiet my mind and center and drop into my heart and feel the presence of love and let go of thought, then I just go to sleep. Because if I go to sleep and I wake up, total reset. So that's what I do. And there's some really profound teachers that I've learned that from in the past that share that as well. What's that translate on a daily basis when we're active and we can't do that? Everybody can excuse themselves to go to the bathroom. Just, you're in a conversation, you're in a situation where you're feeling off, just go to the bathroom and just sit on the toilet for 5 minutes, or just stand in the bathroom and just say, or just look in the mirror. There's almost always a mirror in the bathroom, and just look in your eyes and just feel the presence of your being and love what you're seeing through the eyes of the mirror. And it just conjure up the most powerful feeling of love you can do with your eyes closed, and then open them and just shoot it out your eyes into the eyes that's looking at you, which is your body. But the true being that's looking at you is the real you. And the real you doesn't think about beingness. It is being. There's nowhere for it to think about what it has to do to being, because it's already being. I'll leave this with this. Maybe it'll help. I've had a teacher that I've studied with for almost 50 years now. It's 45, 46. Dennis is his name. And early on, when we were coordinating for him, we coordinated workshops and we promoted and we'd go ride with him and we'd do, he's a master healer, master teacher. And he would stay at our house. And I just would feel like I was feeling like I was in the space of being in the present moment. I was being pure love. And I'd say, Dennis, this is it, right? And he goes, God, that close. You're that close. You're so close. You're that close. Every single time for 3 to 5 years, and I'm talking dozens of times I would ask him, he would answer the same time until I finally got it. And I said, bullshit, Dennis. What do you mean I'm that close? He said, the minute you ask the question, you ain't there. And so you be in the present moment.
It took you 5 years to define it.
It took 5 years to recognize what I'm not, and I'm still being attentive to that, so that I could see who and what I really am.
Right.
There's tricks to doing it. Engaging Rachtmann Kuba filters in the human mind. Dropping down into the heart, the chambers of the heart. Take care of the heart, for in it are the treasures of life. Just meditate on the heart. Ask the angels to support you. They are here to serve us. Know that the body that you live in is never who you are. It's an impossibility. But you and I get to experience the realm of being in a body. That is fantastic. And we can differentiate between being in the body and being out of the body and seeing the body sitting here, like you were describing.
Well, and we have that, each of us personally, who you are being inside the body. And I think what the interesting part of that is that I'm looking at you through a video now, but let's say you're just sitting next to me. I see you as a body that is different from you think you are a body.
You will absolutely see me through your own perceptual field, and it will not be the way I see myself, without question.
That's right.
Right on.
And if there's 5 of us in a group sitting around a table, each one of us would have a different definition of the person around the table.
That's
Different
why
from the one that the person has it. Yeah.
And that's exactly why I always do my best to see every individual as pure love. The very best version I can come up with that I think pure love is, the radiant being of light that is God in manifest form.
Right.
And I project that on you. And if I'm not doing that, then I'm off and I'm not in the present moment.
Right.
And that is a practice, but what it does is it generates a rhythm. It generates a discipline.
That's good.
For my mind and my body, so that it becomes automatic. And then my evidential mind becomes a cooperation and a cooperator of being in present moment versus what it's been trained to do, and that is think it's something else.
This is great. Thank you, everybody. I just want to give a quick breath, and if there's any parting comments that any of you have before we go, just go around in a circle, perhaps. Sue, do you have anything you want to share? And then Chris?
As I'm thinking about what Rex and Kai, what we've been talking about, 2.5 years ago, my mother died, and I was driving from Oakland County back to Eaton County. As I passed into Livingston County, I felt the spirit of my mom. That might sound woo-woo, but I somehow or other knew without knowing that that was her.
Exactly.
That's beautiful.
It was a beautiful feeling.
Very nice.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Rex, Kai, Chris, do you have anything else? Parting comments before we break up and hopefully come back again next month?
Well, I really like what Sue said about that, feeling the presence of her mom, because she's always there, Sue, not just that one time. She's always
I love Sue's kitty.
Yeah. Her name is Kevin. It was Mumu, but I've renamed her to Kevin. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
A female Kevin?
It used to be my son's cat, and I thought, I wanted to name him Kevin, but I couldn't. I'm going to name his cat Kevin. Yes.
That's cool. Very good. Thank you. What I would like to share is thank you. I appreciate all of you. And I wish that you have the most profound day and week and month, and that everything you look upon, you see the light of love in it. And first and foremost, you see it in yourself.
Thanks, Rex.
Yes,
Great
thank
to-
you very much.
Great to talk to you again. Great to talk to you again.
What a gift. I
Thank you,
can't,
Roy.
I
Thank you,
can't,
Roy.
can't top that one. So I'm just gonna take a break, and I'll hopefully see some of you next week, and maybe not next week, next month or sooner. Any other parting comments?
Thank you, Leroy, for facilitating this.
Leroy, if you would stay on the show and then stop the recording, and I've got some feedback for you that I had. I would like you had asked me to give you some feedback.
That would be great.
Do you have a few minutes?
I do. I will,
Okay.
I'll stop the
5 minutes.
recording unless there's any other parting comments.
Mm,
I'm good. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.